Another month has come and gone, and I've read some comics. Let's dive right into what my favorite comics were from the past month. Let's talk Mark Spector Moon Knight number 5, written by Jed MacKay with artwork by Dev Pramanik. Man, let me tell you, I'm just so incredibly happy that I was convinced to start reading Moon Knight again, because as I've said before, I dropped it way in the past here, but it was time to jump back on and see what Jed was doing here, and I had so much fun with this issue, man. In fact, so much fun that I can say it's almost like the top comic, or like top comic A, top comic B. The runner-up, I went back and forth so many times trying to figure out which one was really going to fall on which side here. So the last issue, we saw kind of like the ramifications of what was happening with the Midnight Mission. We saw that they were trying to basically help Mark Spector, and in doing so, they were taken over by this, haunted house that is actually like an entity among itself, basically, right? So it kind of consumes them, and now Moon Knight, who is also the wielder of this soul sword, this sword that is kind of like imbued with the soul of a dragon, who also eats souls. He's going after this house. He understands what it stands for, what it is, and only he is a person that can actually take it down. Granted, he's incredibly injured, he's incredibly stubborn, and he's probably putting himself in more danger than he even realizes. But it is an action-packed issue that looks so freaking incredible. There's certain artists that kind of get to play with layouts and landscapes and color palettes and line work, and something just works. It's this magical thing, right, that just kind of breaks kind of like the rules of a page layout in a really great way, and Dev is doing that within this book. I haven't seen stuff like this, for a long time, I can say, right? I love the look of this book, man. It draws me in and just captivates me in such a big bad way here. And I think it's a testament to the other creators of the past with Moon Knight, right? One of the most famous artists is Bill Sienkiewicz, that on Moon Knight way back in the day. Well, guess what? It kind of does give me Sienkiewicz vibes in some of this, right? It looks incredible, though. Mark is definitely put into peril. That sword that eats souls, it may not have been on his side as much as he anticipated that it would, right? So it's amazing that bad guys will kind of do that to you. Who would have thunk it? But Jed MacKay, Dev Pramanik, they're doing excellent stuff on Moon Knight here. It's one of my very favorite Marvel books that come out at this point, and it's made me go back and enjoy the ones that I missed as well. So that's a testament to a good comic here. Mark Spector Moon Knight, make sure you're checking this out. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Dead Man number 1, written by W. Maxwell Prince with artwork by Martin Morazzo. Man, the creative team of Ice Cream Man does it again with another property that is really so fitting for this creative team, really, right? Because the character of Dead Man just feels like a more altruistic, good version of the Ice Cream Man character within Ice Cream Man pages. That's kind of what we get here. There's big vibes of that kind of book. If you're a fan of Ice Cream Man, do not hesitate to pick this up. It's going to be right up your alley. So the Dead Man is kind of working almost as a soul custodian, if you will, right? And it feels very much like a mundane day-to-day kind of thing, albeit he's good at his job. But you get to see all of these really wonderful ideas that involve theology and the notion of a soul and the notion of ghosts and spirits and all these great things that are being played with that sharp biting satire and just wit that Maxwell Prince brings to all of his books. It kind of brings a smile to your face, even though maybe you feel bad about smiling sometimes. On top of that, like I said, they play with theology, and there is a god-like character who is basically giving Dead Man his mission, or his duties, if you will. And he's talking to another character, and he flat out tells him, like, bite your tongue, bovine splatter, because he was killed by, basically a wild cart that was being carried by cows back in the day. It's incredible. I love the satire. I love the wit of this book. I love the humor that is a little bit dark, but I don't think it's like black humor necessarily, but it's definitely very fitting when you're talking about death, dead people, souls, so on and so forth. The art You already know it's Martin Morazzo. It's gonna look fantastic here. It's gonna look different than most books do, but so fitting for the subject matter that is being put forth in this book. And the colors too. The color palette totally fits with what they're trying to do here. It was so difficult not to give this top comic of the week. I wasn't necessarily looking for reasons not to. It's just that it feels like such a pick that I would naturally put there, and I wanted to subvert expectations a little bit. Guess what? I couldn't. W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo are doing fantastic work here. I'm so excited to see where they're able to take this storyline as they toy with these other ideas that we've actually seen very recently in the pages of things like Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma. They're talking about the idea of Samsara. And I'm really excited to see how they play with this, because I know that they're going to have something really interesting to say, and something to say that no one else is maybe willing to say either. That's what's got me really excited about this book, and that's what made it absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. Let's talk Space Ghost number 12, written by David Pepose with artwork by Jonathan Lau. That's right, we have a double dose of Pepose right now, and let me tell you, this issue was awesome. They kind of treat Space Ghost at Dynamite here as seasons, right? We have a 12-issue run and an annual. Then we have a 12-issue run and an annual. So this is kind of the end of season number 2 here. We have the annual that's still coming down the pipeline, but this really puts a stamp on the end of season number 2. And I feel like the annual is probably going to be that coda, right? That epilogue, that kind of just like moment of relief, if you will. But let me tell you, the characters in this book are going to need that moment of relief, because what ends up happening here is it's a lot. It's just a lot, right? All of the hallmarks that I call out for Space Ghost feeling like a really classic, really clean, classic superhero kind of comic book are really... they're really put on a showcase here, right, with issue number 12. And we see a lot of cool things that are also happening with the characters of Jan and Jace. And not only that, but there's a couple different versions of Chase that we're seeing here, because we have the younger version and we have the older version. And let me tell you, this issue really does a great job of like pulling forward those emotionally resonant things. I went back because we had a conversation with David over on Ink and Insights, and it really made me think about, again, season 1 and season 2. And I feel like the first 12 issues of Space Ghost was kind of like all about finding something, right? Finding a family, finding a purpose, finding a meaning. And I feel like this second arc was all about loss, right? It was about losing those things that you found. It was all about, you know, the family that has been pushed to the wayside, or just, you know, kind of like pushing themselves away from you. And it's all about losing possibly even the future in this case. It's a really great echo between one another, right? And there's a lot of other kind of like echoes or reminders or callbacks that we kind of get between seasons 1 and 2. But man, this one, again, it was a very emotional kind of issue here. Without spoiling what happens here, our team goes after Tempest the Time Master, and there's ramifications, right? There's things that are put to the test here, up to and including the meaning of being Space Ghost here. Make sure to check this out here, right? I mean, Dynamite is putting out one of the absolute best superhero comic books on stands with Space Ghost here. This issue was really a testament to that. So Space Ghost number 12, absolutely incredible. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Kaya number 35, written and drawn by Wes Craig. I know, we won't stop talking about Kaya at 9-panel grid. And guess what? I'm still not going to stop talking about it. This issue was absolutely incredible. We have come back from a little bit of a break here. I think that Wes Craig was probably working on his upcoming Kickstarter for Thunderhead number 2. Make sure you go check that out on Kickstarter's page here, kind of save it for when it actually starts to launch. But this issue was big. It was a big to-do, right? And a lot of the narrative behind Kaya is that it's a quick read. And that's true for the most part, right? In fact, it could be true even here, but they do a lot of heavy lifting in issue number 35. So we know that Jin and Kaya have been separated. They're still somewhat on the same mission, but for different reasons at this point. Kaya is trying to stay true to what she promised that she would do. There is training that needs to happen. If she is going to take on the robot army, she needs to be prepared for it. She's all in preparation mode. Whereas Jin and Razel, right, his caretaker right now, who is a little bit mischievous, kind of like a Loki figure, well, they're like, we don't need training. This kid's got powers and we're going to put them to play. So we're just going to go straight to the robot army. So we're starting to see the cracks develop in both of these relationships. They've been separated, and I feel like both of them simultaneously are seeing more and more reason as to why they need to be together, right? For Jin, we're starting to see him question Razel a little bit more, and we're starting to see him question it big time now, knowing that they need someone that is going to be able to lead them to the robot army. They need basically a Sherpa, and who is that Sherpa? None other than Vox, the dude that tried to kill him at the very onset of this series. Not only that, but the person that killed his entire family and his entire basically being, right? The whole kingdom is gone now because of this dude, and now he's got to team up with that dude. There's question marks all over that, and Jin knows it. Now Kaya, she's kind of like, put herself in with this traveling, troupe of almost like carnival performers, right? But she's starting to develop different relationships there too, as she's starting to, I don't know, maybe loosen up a bit, maybe start looking at things from different aspects besides being this metal-armed, protector of her brother and avenger of of her previous kingdom. So you can see both of these characters are on learning missions, right? They're on these discovery missions to try to figure out what it means to be the people that they are, and like I said, why they're trying to get back together here. So I can't wait to see that actually happen. Issue number 35, we're slowly but surely getting to the point where we're going to be at the end game of Kaya, and I'm not ready for that, but luckily we still have at least 15-ish issues to go here. 35 is a testament to what this series can be, though. Wes Craig has really developed this really great fantasy story here, both visually and narratively, and for those reasons, it made it absolutely worthy of Top Comic of the Week. Let's talk Concrete Stars Over Sand number 1, written and drawn by Paul Chadwick. So let me start by saying this. This very easily could have been my top comic of the week. In fact, I toyed back and forth with whether or not this was going to be my pick, and I'm moving it to my runner-up just because I don't have the most vast knowledge of Concrete, the character. I've read a little bit. I know enough to kind of know where I'm going within this series, but I feel like this is, dare I say, like almost a controversial pick, right? Because I don't know how many people are going to be reading Concrete right now. That doesn't change my experience with the book, but, I try to give a good overview of how maybe the general population will be reading these comics and what they should be looking out for. Concrete is interesting. So Paul Chadwick is like the sole creator of everything within the pages here. I said writer and artist. He's also the colorist. He's also the letterer. He is very truly the one person behind this book, and you can just tell it exudes like one singular mindset. So let's back up here. Concrete is a very interesting character. It is a man who was a speechwriter in a previous life. I shouldn't say previous life, same life, who was basically, his consciousness was implanted into an alien body, what is completely made of concrete itself, which sounds like this is going to be a sci-fi book. It is not. It is not at all. In fact, the interesting thing about this is that it's almost a slice of life book, like very much so. This is about, the character has kind of like gone through the struggles of trying to figure out how to continue his life, how to take these big concrete fingers and write speeches on a keyboard, right? And this is all about him and his found family, kind of going on this trip as Concrete's son, who is a rock being himself, is in this almost like coma-like state, but they don't know, is this a normal thing? Is this something that happens because of his alien biology, where his temperature is rising? So if it continues to rise, will he eventually awaken? And this is a very introspective issue about a person trying to figure out what his place in life is. Really, really cool stuff here. I don't think this is going to be a book for everyone, but I feel like if you have indie sensibilities and if you like kind of like that inner monologue, slice of life type of comic book, man, this could really, really be something that makes you want to explore this character through and through. That's what it's done for me. I hope that's what it does for you. Concrete Stars Over Sand was an incredible reintroduction of this character. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Redcoat number 18, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Brian Hitch. Man, this was another one of those books. I feel like we've had synergy between a lot of books, unknowingly so, right? We've had a lot of slice of life kind of like things. We've had conversational comics this week, and this was very much in that vein. It was familial conversations and kind of secrets being laid out. That's what Redcoat was all about here. Simon Plum, in the pages of the most recent issues here, is coming to terms with the fact that his family is not immortal in the same way that he is. And he knows that one day he will live and they will not. And when Benedict Arnold comes back and makes an offer to him that is really enticing, it sets him on a journey to almost become Simon Pure yet again, albeit George Washington and his commandos they're trying to maybe take Benedict Arnold back in here, and you don't know who to trust in any of the pages of this whatsoever. But the one person that Simon believes he can trust is his wife and his family. And in doing so, he reveals everything. He lays it all out on the table. And that leads to things that are going to change Simon throughout like the rest of the series. You could just tell. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also, man, there's something very pure, right? It's his namesake about him doing this. There's something that is so ever changed with this character, and we've seen this journey from the very first book all the way through now issue 18 of his hero's journey, the changes that he is making as a person, and how he was a person who looked out for nothing and no one but himself in issue number 1, to the point now where he has a family. And even though he knows that this could tear his family apart, he knows that the right thing to do is to let them know exactly who he is, what he's gone through, and what is happening right here and right now. And what that means is yet to be seen. We get inklings of it here, but I think it's setting him on a path that is going to again forever change him. That's incredibly exciting. That's what makes me excited about comics, right? Is seeing the growth of these characters and seeing the change happen that is going to change the landscape of these comics and the storylines, right? It's the narrative being pushed forward in ways that feel natural and true, but also incredibly exciting. Redcoat, man, I don't know. I've been a big fan of Redcoat from the jump. I feel like maybe it is leapfrogging Geiger. At the very least, they're 1A, 1B for the Ghost Machine books here, but that's to speak to the level of quality that you're getting with this. They are just as good as one another at the very least, and that's what makes it absolutely worthy of Top Comic of the Week. To get really playful with all of these things that are happening here. And again, I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to give away the events that actually happen in the book, but rest assured they're getting these artifacts here. And with the character of Usagi, you know that he is going to be bouncing around every single corner of this page in order to achieve what they're trying to see happen here. Really fun, really exciting issue here, setting itself up for a conclusion here that leaves us on a cliffhanger on this last page here. So Usagi Yojimbo Kaito 84, man, this is a really fun series here. Make sure you're checking this out. And with my runner-up book of the week, let's talk Is Ted Okay? number 5, written and drawn by Dave Chisholm. Whew, this is a big issue, guys. If you're reading Is Ted Okay? It's been a series that has been building to this issue, to this point, and that is to say, we don't know what's been happening in this world, and we don't know what the company that Ted works for is actually up to, and the entrepreneur, right, the tech bro guy that like has kind of developed this company. What are his, motives? What is he trying to do? And who is Ted? What is Ted, right? We get answers to all of those things within this issue. And that feels like a lot of heavy lifting, but I have to say, within the pages of this book, it's all done clean and concisely, and it's paced out perfectly where none of this stuff feels like it's just like, throwing things against the wall. It is done in a way where I'm like, oh, that makes sense, but also it's satisfying, and also I don't think it's been explored yet in the pages of comic books, at least recently. I'm sure that there's some big wild books out there that I haven't read yet, but man, I gotta say, this feels like a book of its time and age that is going to be exploring things that we just don't get explored, and that is really, really cool. Now, Dave Chisholm on this is doing the artistic duties as well, and I have to say, I don't think that anyone except for him could draw this book. And I shouldn't even just say draw, because he's drawing, he's inking, he's coloring, he's doing everything in this book. And without him being the sole person taking on the duties of this book, I don't know if it would be as successful as it would otherwise. I feel like the uniqueness of his artistic quality is something that just gets to shine through here, and I love that for it. Now, the premise of this book is, again, it's kind of like building. This is another issue that is penultimate, right? So we're gonna have our finale right after this, and I think that we are being set up for something that is going to be epic and exciting here. Now, knowing all these mysteries have been unveiled, I'd be willing to bet that Dave still has a card up his sleeve here to deliver us in issue number 6 here. Is Ted okay though? Toys with so many things that just get me so freaking excited, not just for this comic, but for comics in general. This is proof positive that comics are a medium where you get to do things where you can't do them anywhere else. Is Ted okay is just the shining example of that, man, and I couldn't be more excited for this book. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Escape number 8, written by Rick Remender with artwork by Daniel Acuna. Man, this is an issue that builds more tension than I really was expecting, because we just had such a tension-filled issue. Now, what's interesting, though, is that in our previous issue, we saw that Milton, our main character, had completed his mission, right? He had basically infiltrated, he's gone behind enemy lines, he's destroyed the mechanism that would have allowed the Bats to win this kind of war, right? Which is kind of a stand-in for World War II. But now he's kind of on death's door, or he was on death's door. He's beaten, battered, and bruised, and he's being held and nursed back to health by some of the Bats, right? But not the Bats that are working for the army that are against him, but some of them who are occupying that same place, but also are a rebellion to, what is a stand-in for the Germans in World War II. And through that, you get to see a lot of nuance. And it's like something that I think that Rick Remender is really great at, is kind of like developing and playing with these ideas and these viewpoints from a lot of different perspectives, and making you really think about where do you stand and what is right and what is wrong. It's something that he's explored in a lot of different books, most recently really effectively in The Sacrificers, and now we get to explore a little bit of those ideas through a different lens in Escape number 8. So Milton, man, he's kind of put between a rock and a hard place. Is he here to complete, to kind of like do what is best for his country? Is he here to complete his mission? Is he here to actually help the people who are not aligned with what the Bats are trying to do? And how does he accomplish all of those? And if he can't, what does he align with? That's what this issue is all playing with and toying with. And then in that way, it builds up that tension, but in a much different way than the previous issue, but in an equally effective way. Escape has kind of like been one of, again, another shining example of why Rick Remender is one of the absolute best voices in comics right now. And he can do so in a really incredible, sparse way too. He doesn't need to like blow up a page with like a million words either. What he can do with 3 words is what some writers wish they could do with a page full of dialogue, man. And this issue is kind of a shining example of that. When you throw Daniel Acuna's artwork on top of that, you're looking at a masterpiece, right? This is artistic duties and writing quality put together to create one of the absolute best comics of 2026 so far. All of these things put together make it absolutely worthy of Top Comic of the Week.